Chloe Jo Davis from girlygirlarmy.com, but here today for Celebrity Catwalk with the most unbelievable new company, My Heart Books. And here to talk about it is the founder of My Heart Books, Erica Blit. Welcome, Erica.
Thank you.
Erica is also my friend and neighbor, and we're New Yorkers on a New York show, so it works perfectly that we're here together today.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about, obviously I know her wonderful family, but I wanted to share with you all this really revolutionary company. Tell me the origins of why you started this book.
Sure. So I started this because my son Brandon, who's now 12 years old, he was born with a lot of medical issues initially, but as time went on, we realized he was pretty developmentally delayed. And one of the biggest things is that he's nonverbal. He doesn't speak. Still at 12 years old. He just turned 12, excuse me.
Happy birthday, Brandon.
And, you know, he has other issues as well. He has a feeding tube. He can't eat by mouth. As far as medical, he's much better now. But his receptive language, which is what we understand, is weak. It's kind of grown over time. But you have to speak in very simple sentences to him, like, Brandon, give me a high five. But if me and you are having a conversation, he's not going to understand it.
Right.
And so I have a daughter who is now 7, who is typically developing, and she started speaking at a very young age. I think it was a gift to us after having a son that never spoke. So I think even before she was 2 years old, she started asking questions.
Right.
Why doesn't Brandon talk? And she adores him, but you know, she spoke, and her older brother didn't. She didn't understand it. Started with a very simple answer, kind of, you know, you were in my belly for 9 months. Brandon was only in my belly for 7 months. His brain didn't develop the way that yours did, but I knew this answer would have to evolve as she got older. And I kind of always turned to children's books to explain things. You know, we were constantly in the library. It's right down the block from us, as you know.
Yeah.
You know, she's like, what do trees do? What is this? And we're getting books out of the library. And I'm like, I looked, and there were some books about children with disabilities or special needs. A handful of good ones, some not so great, but Brandon is very unique. He has a very rare genetics syndrome, and I don't really know any other kid like him, and same with anybody, any kid. Nobody's the same as somebody else. Everybody's so unique. So I was like, I think we should just write our own little book, and I spoke to Brandon's school to get some ideas, and they helped me put together something very simple at the time, and we called it My Brother Brandon, and it quickly became the kids' favorite book because we included pictures of them in it, and it really was a great way to explain things to my daughter, Skylar. Several years later, I had an opportunity at her preschool. So at this time, the kids in her class were 3 and 4 years old, and they did what's called a family day. You know, you go in, you talk about your job, you play an instrument. And I said, you know, can I come in and talk about being kind to each other and people's differences? And, you know, I have this My Brother Brandon book, and we sort of adapted it for the class. And we played a game with the children, and so since Brandon doesn't speak, we did this game, Turn Your Voices Off. And we put the kids in pairs of 2, and they had to complete an art project, kind of duplicating a picture using construction paper, and they weren't allowed to talk. And the teacher at the time said to me, good luck getting these little ones quiet, and they did not make a peep. And I said, you know, Brandon says, give me, or signs more, and he uses an iPad, which we call his talker. And for those of you who don't know, he can press different pictures on it to help communicate since he can't speak. So we sort of told them all these different things. They were like, oh yeah, when I was younger, I used to sign a little bit, because you know how we all teach our babies, you know, if this is milk, or a little bit before they can start speaking. So we did it, and the teacher's looking at me. Oh my God, can you come every day? These kids are so quiet. This is amazing. And we read the book, and I passed it out to all of the children because I think it's really beneficial to have something to take home afterwards, so it continues the conversation. And then within the next day or 2 days later, every single parent came up to me and the teachers and said, oh my God, thank you. This was so amazing. My kid came home, was talking about it. You taught my kid empathy. And I'm thinking in my head, I mean, these 3 and 4-year-olds, they don't talk about their day at school when they come home. I didn't hear about any of the other stuff. And I'm like, okay, this is important. Like
They talked about this.
They talked about it.
Right.
Yeah.
And a disclaimer, our children were in the same class, not at that
Not
year,
at that age.
but afterwards.
Yes.
And when that book was presented, my son had so many answers to why Brandon does things the way he does and what makes him so special. And my child, who's my introverted middle child, and is not the talker and the
who I love
volunteer,
so much.
he loves you and your daughter, but that's another story, was so moved by the book. And so that's when we all knew you had something.
Right.
So tell me what happened next.
So yeah, so I had been doing this for several years by the time that your son was in my daughter's class.
Yes.
And it was very, very interesting to watch as the kids got older. And they do notice differences as they get older. At 3 and 4, they don't.
Right.
4 and 5, they do. Usually
Right.
the girls notice before the boys because they're more verbal.
Right.
And, you know, where it started, where I really just wanted to broaden these kids' horizons, teach empathy, and then it got to a point where my daughter was getting hurt when some kids were making mean comments, and I said, okay, well, I have a visit planned to the school. We're going to get in. And you know what? It changed their attitudes around. And Brandon became almost like a celebrity for the class.
Right.
And they were talking about him, and they would see him, and they're like, there's Brandon. Do you know he uses a talker? Hey!
You totally
there's my-"
shifted the dominant paradigm. You shifted the
Yes.
entire dialogue.
Yes. So it was just such an incredible thing for our family because, you know, there are many of us parents that do have children that have disabilities or special needs, and it can be challenging. It can feel uncomfortable just going out in your local neighborhood. You know, you want to go to the playground, you want to go to the restaurant, and I don't think most people have malintentions. I do think most people want to do the right thing, but, you know, kids stare. Parents don't always know the right thing to say. They may shush them, not being mean, but thinking, oh, I don't want to offend them.
Right.
Please ask me the questions. It's
Right.
fine. Like, we're cool.
Right.
But, you know, as kids notice differences, again, I say it's not them being mean initially, but something very innocent can turn into a mean thing. And they may be giving a funny look or shying away. And, you know, for Brandon, he doesn't notice it, but it hurts us. It hurts my daughter. And it's made it a much more comfortable environment. And so, for example, I did this at my daughter's Hebrew school, the temple that we go to. And after I presented, I mean, there was one day I didn't bring Brandon because a lot of times I bring him for pickup. And the kids are like, where's Brandon? Why is he not here today? That was not the reaction prior to it. So it was a game changer.
Right.
So it was, and you know, the book, like I said, it's evolved over the years. And so I've added, and I added a page at the end for parents and caregivers. So you really do know how to continue these conversations when you get home. So
this is sort of the epitome of thinking locally and then acting globally, because what you did is you started with your neighborhood and then you said, I've got to bring this to other parents.
Yeah.
I've got to bring this to other communities. So what happened next?
So then I'm saying to myself one day, how can we make this for other families? Because we're, like I mentioned, Brandon doesn't speak. You have child or adult that could be in a wheelchair or doesn't hear or see. I mean, the list is endless, right? No two people are exactly alike. And it's not, the book doesn't just discuss the challenges, but it's what are they good at? What do you love about them? What can you do to help them? So I'm racking my brain, speaking to different people. How can I do this? And finally came up with the idea of creating this website, My Heart Books, where you can go on and it's almost like a template and you can create your own custom book about someone that you know. So you pretty much, you go in, you create your own characters, which is super fun. You can do it with the kids.
Yeah.
You fill out a really simple questionnaire. It's just 11 questions. It's got drop downs. You know, we've worked with so many different educators and therapists to make sure it's as inclusive as possible. And you just make your choices, hit submit, and then you just order a hardcover copy, a softcover copy.
And then you get, so you want to show us the sort of the breadth or the evolution, rather?
Yeah, so this is our family's book, my brother Brandon.
Yes.
And you can see, you can put your own picture on the cover. There is a dedication page, and you know, maybe you want to put a picture of the 2 kids on it.
Right.
And then you go through the book. I'll show you just a few pictures, but you can see the characters. I mean, my kids have blonde hair like me.
Yeah.
But the characters somewhat resemble them.
Right.
So, you know, if you have a redhead child, you don't
Right.
want your kid having blonde hair.
Right, of
You can
course.
put them in a wheelchair, glasses, whatever it may be. And so I can
Right.
show you just a couple different versions that I brought. But like this one, for example, was created from my sister, Nicole. And it's
Right.
got her picture. And you see the characters resemble Nicole and Travis, who this
Right.
book is about.
Right.
We've got my brother, Elliot. So it's really varies from kid to kid. And the
Right.
text varies from person to person. So
And so I think it's so important to also mention that your co-writer is your mother.
Yes.
So it's a family affair, which I love, and from start to finish, really. And your mother was is a...
She's retired now, but she's was a social worker for many, many years at a special needs school in New Jersey. So she's always been a great resource for me. I mean, we literally went through all the IEP classifications, which is an individual education plan, to make sure we included everything that possibly could be.
That's amazing.
So, and
because some kids who have special needs, it's not always obvious.
Not at all.
Not only physically, but even like verbally, you can't always tell.
No, I mean, there are kids in regular classrooms, and and I think, especially for the kids that have such small things wrong with them, it is very helpful because they're sitting in an inclusion class or a gen ed class, and I think this can really make other children much more empathetic and sensitive. If somebody is a little bit different, because we're all a little bit different, let's be real. And so, you know, the book piece has always been a big piece for me, but I really wanted to give other families the ability to do what I've done within our local schools and synagogue and other organizations that we're involved in. So I think it's been very effective because it's about Brandon specifically, which is somebody that they know. But what if my friend Mary has a book about her son Johnny? She can now go into her school and do those programs, and it's just so much more powerful when it's about somebody. And it doesn't just
affect then Johnny. If Mary takes it to her church about Johnny, then what happens is they meet someone from that church meets Brandon.
Exactly.
And then treats Brandon the way they now treat Johnny. So it's really a reverberating effect, like skipping a pebble in a lake.
Yeah, I mean, really, the goal in a way was very slowly, like you said, starting on a very small scale and growing, but changing the way the communities see things. And I think it's important to start with young children because they are so innocent. And when you're around someone that's different when you're young, it just becomes more natural. Because we all try to be nice and do the right thing, which is great. But when it's innate in you, that's different.
And it carries you in perpetuity.
Yeah.
It's funny because I was thinking I probably wasn't exposed to that many kids with special needs growing up. In fact, I'm just sort of trying to think back on how I would have even reacted. And I love that this exposes children in advance. You sort of like catch them while they're, before they can form judgments, because even societally and even in terms of like certain religions and certain cultures, it is looked down upon still to this day to have a child with any form of special needs. So do you think this lends to a lot of awareness even for adults? I mean, this is...
I really do. And like I said, that was sort of the main reason. I'll hold up this page. And it is this note for parents and caregivers because I think, so you can see there's some different things that they can do, like exposing children to people with special needs, promote some more inclusive society, point out to your child how everyone is different. People communicate in many ways. Instead of telling your children not to stare, you can tell them it's okay to say hi and introduce yourself and reinforce and recognize your child when he or she demonstrates positive behaviors towards others. These seem like such simple things, but it just might not be on your radar.
Oh my God. And not every parent pushes compassion first.
This is true.
Kindness, I mean, my mantra with my kids is no matter what, be kind, be kind, be kind, be kind. Because that certainly wasn't my mantra growing up. I had other mantras, but that's my mantra for my children. And I wish everybody's mantra was that for their children, because at the base of it all, if we were kinder to each other, things would be easier in general, right?
But and I think it prevents bullying and all of that stuff as kids get older too. Like, just be kind. Like Mr. Rogers, that's where it goes, right?
And so now with the advent of social media, do you think social media is helping or hindering children with special needs?
Well, I think it depends on the child. I actually think it's helping because one positive thing about social media is all these different Facebook groups, right? So you can get a lot of advice and information that you never would have had. I mean, support.
Communities from, you know, Alaska, and you're in New York.
I mean, you can speak to people from Tokyo, like anywhere really. I mean, like for example, my son has this very rare syndrome where...
Can you just tell us the name of it, just in case?
Yeah, it's called MED13L, which is, it's so random. I mean, I think there's maybe 100 people, there could be 200 people that have it now. It's very, very rare. And now we know other families because there is a Facebook group for this. And if there are things that come out to help, there's information out there. So there's that piece of it, but there's also, I mean, I see posts all the time. My son's breaking down today and I just can't take it. Just having people out there that have been there, been in the same situation and can give you advice. Or, I mean, Brandon, he has a feeding tube. We always gave him formula. He had severe reflux issues, so much pain all the time. I found out from other families about blending my own food. I mean,
you wouldn't have known.
Doctors are wonderful, but you do find out from the parents at the end of the day, really.
Very interesting, because their nutrition education is limited, but that's a whole other conversation.
And they're great. They're wonderful.
Right,
but you need everything.
You need support, the full breadth of support. And where do you think that you can take this next? What's your... I fell unmiked. I've come undone, people. What do you think? What do you think is going to happen next after this?
So for me, I really would like to see other families doing programs. I would like to create an ambassador program with other families where they could do what I'm doing, so it really could spread. I would like to create other books as we go on. So for this book, it's written about a child that has, you know, differences and challenges and everything. But what about the child that's autistic, that understands a lot more than Brandon does and doesn't even know he's autistic? And when you have to break that news to him, and that is very helpful to do in a book. And where this book is geared at younger children, really, you know, age 2 to 9. And I purposely never put labels. So I would describe things. I don't say autism. I don't say Down syndrome. I mean, the term that a lot of people in the community know about people with autism is stimming, which means when you're flapping your hands, spinning around in circles. A young child doesn't know what stimming means. So I'll say, Bobby's spinning around in circles, flapping his arms, because it makes him feel better. It's written in very child-friendly terms. But I think for an older child, you can do a little bit more descriptive and write things in a different way. So I would like to do a version of the book that's geared
at 2.0.
100%, yes. Or even a sibling one for the other. So this is my brother Brandon. Maybe Brandon writes a book about Skylar. You know, you don't want any animosity between the two, right? Now she has her special book also.
Amazing. That's really life-changing what you're doing. And I know that you're available to come present at churches, community centers, whatever the case may be, and present, you know, maybe even just have an interactive, you know, sit down with people and trying to explain to them and to better understand in their own community how they can do right by people with special needs.
Exactly. And, you know, we can do, like I mentioned, I did the Turn Your Voices Off activity with my daughter's class, but there's a billion other activities that I do depending on the age level and the program. So there's so many different things that we can do.
Right. So I want everybody to just have one last look at these beautiful books and to have Erica then sort of take us out with all the places they can find you, both on social media and where they can purchase this book. Now the book is, what is it, how many dollars?
So for a soft cover, it's $19.99, and a hardcover is $34.99. And then there's also an option of getting a PDF add-on, so you have an online version. And what I love about that is when you're out in a situation where a child's asking a question, you might be in an uncomfortable situation, you have it right there on your phone.
And you can just sort of slip it over to them. You can iPhone drop it into their phone. So where can we find you?
So if you go to www.myheartbooks.com, you can purchase the books right on there. There's a Create Your Book button, and you can just go make your own book. It'll take about 10 minutes or so. It's pretty simple to do.
Amazing.
And, you know, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram under My Heart Books.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Erica. This was a privilege and an honor. I'm Chloe Davis for Celebrity Catwalk here today. Thanking you so much for watching. Bye.
Welcome back to Celebrity Catwalk. I have two special guests with me today. Please allow me to introduce the wonderful Tallulah. Tallulah Barkhead is her full government name, and wonderful Tasha Bella. Tasha and Tallulah are both wonderful Pup Scouts. Spoiler alert, we're going to have a Pup Scout segment coming later. But for now, we're just concentrating on some of our Paws in the City designers. Both of our beautiful ladies today are in Jan Ben. Jan Ben is an incredible designer. She's an advocate. She's based in Morocco, and she will be here in December for Paws in the City. Both Tallulah and Tasha are going to show us some different looks, but we had to open on these, so we'll be back with more. But in the meantime, here is Tallulah and Tasha in Jan Ben. Beautiful. Next up, here is Tasha Bella, and Tasha is back. Tasha, AKA Manhattan Morky. Thank you, Susan. Tasha is a wonderful Celebrity Catwalk supporter. She was in South Carolina for our last show. And here is Tasha in Lisa Amy Oxford, an Australian designer. So we've really gone global, and I hope you all can see all the details. Lisa Amy really does beautiful work, the mixed media. If you can get all that, I really hope so. She does beautiful, beautiful work. And this is really gorgeous. Tasha, you're such a pro. Thank you. Look at the details on that. Beautiful, ladies. Thank you very much. Thank you. And it must be Lisa Amy Oxford night, because here is fabulous Tallulah also in Lisa Amy Oxford. Look at this gorgeous. Look at the detail. Look at the quilting. She really does beautiful work. Tallulah is another, no stranger to the catwalk, another wonderful pub scout. Tallulah does some great fundraising. You can also catch Tallulah on Instagram. Look at this beautiful. And this, correct me if I'm wrong, Michelle, these wings come off,
yes,
which is wonderful. So if you feel like being a fairy, you can, and if not, you don't have to be. Tallulah is wonderful. Look at her signature mohawk. Gorgeous. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Beautiful. All right. Tasha is next. And this is Lisa Marie Creech Kemplin. That's a lovely, look at that. I'm impressed with that. Lisa Marie, you heard that? I did well by you. Really cute. Look at the layers. Look at the bling. Really a fun outfit. The buttons are really cute too. I didn't even realize the details of the covered buttons. Tasha wore this at our last show, and it really looks great on her. It pops really nicely, and Tasha really makes everything work well. So this is another cute number. Look at you. Beautiful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. And now, closing it out, beautiful. Tallulah, here you are in Terry Holt. This is another beautiful number. I mean, you really, everyone needs a little, this isn't even a little, I'm saying little red dress, like it's a little dress, but it's really gorgeous, lovely details. Tallulah keeps quite a social life, so she needs things like this to wear to the galas and the benefits and all the things that she attends, because I should have her social calendar, really. So she really looks magnificent. So I hope you all are catching all the details of the flowers, the beautiful fabrications of the roses in the fabric, the bows, and the floral detail makes it feminine, but still that power red, that Nancy Reagan red. Fabulous. Oh, yes, Tallulah, work. Thank you, thank you. Beautiful. You'll be seeing these ladies in December at Paws in the City. Thank you all very much. Be sure to like and subscribe if you're catching us on YouTube, and to our MNN viewers, thank you very much for watching. Until next time.